over. The Odessa newspaper called the flight over that town a red-letter day in city history. He had to make some minor motor repairs at Blue Springs before flying on to Kansas City, where schools were dismissed, so students could see him become the first airplane to fly over that town. About 10,000 people were waiting for him when he landed at Swope Park. Bad weather grounded Rogers for 2 days. The record he set on the flight to Marshall was broken later when he flew 265 miles from Veneta, Oklahoma to Fort Worth, Texas. He finally reached Pasadena, California on November 5th, 49 days after the start, but after only 82 hours and 4 minutes in the air. He crashed on the way to Long Beach a week later, demolishing the Vin Fizz for the 5th time. It was rebuilt, and on December 10th, he taxied the plane's wheels into the surf at Long Beach. He won none of the money from Hearst. The money from Armour Foods had gone for rebuilding the plane after crashes. In fact, there were so many crashes only 2 pieces that started out with the plane in New York made it to California. The next April, in a different airplane, Cal Rogers crashed into the surf at Long Beach and was killed. His records were soon broken, his name all but forgotten, but he had left his mark on aviation and on Missourians. As the newspaper said in Marshall, the flying machine is already indispensable in some uses, and plenty of people will be found to man them, no matter what the risk. Cal Rogers and the Vin Fizz brought excitement and awe and a new era to thousands of Missourians when they flew over the state starting on this date, the 10th of October in 1911.
That would make an awesome movie. I'll have to do some more research on that. And here all along, I was a big fan of Charles Lindbergh. Still am.
Nobody knows where they might end up. Nobody knows.
Welcome back to Studio 26 on this Thursday morning into the second hour of today's broadcast/podcast. And still to come, we'll have the CBS World News Roundup for you in just a little bit, as well as, let's see, what else do I have? Market information. And Today in History, right around the corner. So we'll get to all that in just a few seconds. But right now, though, it's time for Celebrity Birthdays.
Damn it, Jim, what the hell's the matter with you? Other people have birthdays. Why are we treating yours like a funeral?
Bones, I don't want to be lectured.
Very, very many happy reasons.
And taking a look at celebrity birthdays for today. But before I run down that list, of course, if you're celebrating your birthday today, happy birthday. And you share your birthday with these famous people. David Lee Roth of Van Halen is 59. Picture that, Van Halen. David Lee Roth is 59. Julia Sweeney of Saturday Night Live fame is 54. Mario Lopez is 40. And Dan Stevens of Downton Abbey is 31. And those are celebrity birthdays for today. And speaking of birthdays, as I mentioned, tune in to Monday's program for a very special birthday party that I'm going to have right here on this program, okay? I have some special things for a very special person in my life, and I hope you'll tune in for that. That's all I'm going to say at this point. But those of you that know me probably know what it is, know who it is. But the rest of you, you're just going to have to tune in and find out. That's called a teaser. And I'm a tease. Okay. All right, it's time for Today in History. And there's the cart that I need. And I have room for one passenger in the time machine. Yes, I know it's a DeLorean. It's all right. It's all right. And I've chosen one passenger. And it's you. Yeah, you in the back. Come on up here. Let's get in the car and go back in time. Put the key in the ignition. Hopefully I haven't killed the battery. And time to turn on the time circuits. And away we go. And as we fly around the sun and go back in time at Warp 10, we go back to the year 1865. October 10th, 1865 to be precise. That's our first stop. John W. Hyatt patented a billiard ball of a composition material which resembles ivory. And he kept the patent in his side pocket. On this date in 1865. Well, I mean, the Civil War's over. You got to find something to do. I mean, we're no longer fighting each other. Yeah, the fight's over. Yeah, right. Okay, for more of Today in History, here's the Associated Press.
October 10th, 1973. Vice President Spiro Agnew, accused of taking bribes, pleads no contest to federal income tax evasion. Agnew then becomes only the second vice president in U.S. history to resign.
It's because that I believe it would be against the national interest, have a brutalizing effect on my family to go through a long 2-year struggle concerning this matter.
President Richard Nixon appoints and Congress confirms Gerald Ford as vice president. Ford becomes president when the Watergate scandal forced Nixon to resign the following year. 1911, end of imperial rule in China as revolutionaries under Sun Yat-sen overthrow the country's Manchu dynasty. 1985, U.S. fighter jets force an Egyptian plane carrying the Achille Lauro hijackers to land in Italy. That's where the gunmen who seized the cruise ship on the Mediterranean are taken into custody. Also in 1985, Orson Welles, the actor, director, and producer whose works include the movie masterpiece Citizen Kane, dies in Los Angeles. He was 70. 1813. Giuseppe Verdi, considered one of the greatest opera composers of all time, is born in Italy. And 2004.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Actor Christopher Reeve, who played Superman in the movies, dies in Mount Kisco, New York at age 52. Reeve spent the last years of his life in a wheelchair after he was paralyzed in a horse riding accident. Today in History, October 10th. Tim McGuire, The Associated Press.
By one calculation, 50 million Americans visit foreign lands each year. A telecom CEO tells us why many don't dare to use their phones when they go.
Let Marketplace be your guide to the modern world. Subscribe to the Marketplace Tech Report podcast. Find it on iTunes or at marketplace.org/podcasts.
From APM in New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the global perspective on business and economics. The International Monetary Fund has cut its forecast for global economic growth to just 2.9% for 2013. This comes as central bankers, finance ministers, and development pros from around the world gather in Washington for the annual meeting of the World Bank and IMF. Kate Davidson reports.
You guessed it. It's the debt ceiling.
It's a big black cloud that's hanging over everyone.
Jan Randolph is Director of Sovereign Risk at IHS Global Insight. The risk of a U.S. default is what he calls a low probability, high impact risk.
It's a bit like the risk, as I said, of the Eurozone collapse last year, or nuclear Armageddon during the Cold War.
In this case, it's the risk of another contagious recession in the world's biggest economy. Ken Rogoff is a Harvard economist speaking at today's meeting. He says some of these visiting officials are used to deflecting criticism at these meetings. So for them, it's kind of a relief to be in Washington and find that the coverage has changed.
And they're so happy that they don't see complaints about Europe, they don't see criticisms of what's going on in China, that everything's focused on the U.S.
Of course, that's with the assumption that there will be an 11th hour deal to avert the looming crisis. I'm Kate Davidson for Marketplace.
Now let's check the stock markets. Talk that Republicans in Congress might just be amenable to a short-term extension on America's ability to borrow is said to be a reason stock index futures in the U.S. are all up in the 0.8% range right now. In London, the FT 100 is up 1%.
Do you enjoy the music we play between stories? Visit the Marketplace Music section to browse playlists for all of our programs and to buy those songs on Amazon. A percentage of each purchase goes towards supporting our programs. Find more online at marketplace.org/music.
First, it was mobile phone service with no commitment, no contract. Then it was phone upgrades every 6 months. What some see as the also-ran of American Wireless, T-Mobile, is having a new bout of iconoclasm. Last night, the company that likes to call itself the Un-carrier surprised the industry with a plan that lets people use data and text in foreign countries at no extra charge. Voice calls will be a cheap flat rate, which will also apply when T-Mobile customers call other countries from the U.S. Seemed like a good opportunity to sit down with T-Mobile CEO John Ledger.
Glad to be here.
So data and texts in 100 countries, all you can eat when you're overseas, cheap flat rate calls, no extra charge. Why is that a strategy to make money?
What we're about is solving pain points. And one of the real big pain points is people are scared to death of overages and restrictions when they step over a border to another country. In what we're doing, we're going to offer unlimited international data roaming and text in 115 countries. And here's the big part. The price, free. And I think what's interesting is if you were to use your phone in another country, similar to how you use it here, not even as much, that would cost you in Canada, without a calling plan, $1,200 a day. With our new program, that would cost you a whopping total of $6.40.
You're getting a lot of new customers, Mr. Ledger, 1.1 million in a recent quarter. You're making friends, but you're not making money. Where are the profits here?
Actually, the misnomer here is last year, T-Mobile lost over 2 million customers, so it was in a period of decline. The free cash flow is over $2 billion. So, we're doing quite well. And the company is not just about acquiring customers. We're making very clear forecast about revenue growth and EBITDA growth. And
earnings before interest.
Taxing, depreciation, and amortization.
There you go.
And you're right. Not only are we adding customers, since we announced our Un-carrier programs, we have acquired more customers than AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint combined. So, yeah, we are adding a lot of customers, and I think we're getting noticed.
Now, they say you're one of the most plain-spoken, blunt CEOs in any business. So now a moment of word association. I say AT&T, what do you say?
Suck.
Verizon?
Bloated.
Now, if I said T-Mobile to those guys, they might say, I hate to tell you, Distorter of Truth, an advertising watchdog group, just said that some of your ads make claims about your competitors' technical abilities that are not supported by fact. Knowing that, are you going to change the ads?
I can tell you, based on data today, everything we've said is correct. And frankly, all this is BS, because what matters is the customer that makes a decision. Interestingly, 1 year ago, I can remember that Verizon did an ad of LTE networks, and there were 4 bars, and there was T-Mobile with no service. And, what we did is instead of being insulted, we said, hey, at least they're talking about us. And I'm happy about that.
Now, before we go, I remember seeing you, not in person, but on TV, during your Global Crossing days. You had the necktie, you're all kind of Harvard Business School. Now, with the T-shirts here, your admission that you're a fan of DC comic books.
There you go.
John, what happened to you?
It's self-actualization. I've moved up the hierarchy of needs. No, I'm clearly at a stage in my life where I don't take myself that seriously, and I prefer to think of my Wall Street slick-haired suit look as a phase as opposed to now. And, I'm 55 years old. I'm just trying to fit in with these young guys.
T-Mobile CEO John Ledger. Mr. Ledger, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also asked the T-Mobile CEO about competition in the wireless industry and if he might like to merge with, say, Sprint. If you miss it on the air, in a little bit we'll put up the interview at marketplace.org. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
We're going to interview Eric Weihenmayer, who climbed the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest. But he's gay. He's blind.
You know what they do in San Francisco, some of the gay community, they want to get people, so if they've got the stuff, they'll have a ring, you shake hands, and the ring's got a little thing where you cut your finger.
Really?
Yeah, really. It's that kind of vicious stuff, which would be the equivalent of murder. Really?
President Obama and the partial shutdown.
Separate meetings today at the White House with Republicans and Democrats.
Ordeal for Libya's prime minister.
Removed by a gang of armed men from the hotel where he's been living.
NSA leaker's father in Moscow.
I'm simply thankful that my son is safe and free.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. No movement, but there are meetings today on the 10th day of the partial government shutdown. CBS News.